Welcome to episode 4 of Countdown to 5, covering Ghostbusters.
Wait, I don't understand what's going on here. Didn't we already cover Ghostbusters?
Okay, let me explain. They rebooted the original Ghostbusters in 2016, so that's what we're covering.
So it's a third Ghostbusters.
But not Ghostbusters 3.
That's it.
Okay, I'm out of here.
Okay, wait, what if we call it Ghostbusters Answer the Call?
Well, why didn't you say that from the beginning?
That's perfectly fine. I'm good with that.
You guys are easy. Let's go. Countdown to 5 Ghostbusters. Yes, this episode's content is confusing because after years of wanting to make Ghostbusters 3, Bill Murray's availability and interest were always sketchy, and of course, Harold Ramis passed away sadly in 2014. This led to Sony to reboot the whole franchise and start over with a new cast, and now we have Ghostbusters Answer the Call, we'll call it.
Well, and they do say answer the call at the very end. I think it's on the. I think that's on the title.
Yes.
It's not on. It's not at the head though.
Nope, it is not.
Yeah.
And that's a whole thing we'll get into. I'm Paul Preston of the Movie Guys.
Oh, hey, I'm Sean Blodgett of Creative Motion Entertainment.
And I'm Justin, because Justin makes me feel good.
Please get that hashtag going.
Hashtag Justin makes me feel good.
And we shouldn't mess around and get right into what's new with Frozen Empire. So, Sean, fill us in.
Okay, all right, hold on. Let me get to my notes here. I'm just going to keep doing that joke in perpetuity. All manner of popcorn buckets are actually available, similar to what they had for Afterlife.
Not to be outdone, by Dune. They've come in and with volume, I think, have bested. Dune's got the one that's the big deal. Yeah. Mm-hmm. SNL did the sketch comedy about how you could have sex with it. But did you see that? Very funny.
I didn't see that. But hold on, let me just look.
But Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire comes out before Dune, so we should have more. And for volume, they win.
Yeah. I mean, I had never gotten one of the popcorn bucket things, whatever, except for Indiana Jones. Dial of Destiny. That was the first time I got one of those, and I was like, yeah, I can see what people get. This is awesome. And it was only $25, and it was Mann's Chinese Theater in Hollywood. It was awesome.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love popcorn. I love buckets. I love everything about this story.
You love buckets?
Who doesn't?
I mean, who doesn't? Who says
I have buckets of love for buckets.
So it's shaped like the Ecto-1, but it's cleaner. So because the Afterlife one was also shaped like the Ecto-1, correct?
Yes, but it was the old beat-up one from from
okay,
that
gotcha.
film.
I'm glad you clarified.
Okay.
Because to say a food container, one is cleaner than the other, as if last time around they're like, it was disgusting. There was so much gross stuff.
Have you been to a Harkins?
Let's see. Cinemark will have cups and tins, but the Slimer bucket is unique.
That's the thing. I
right?
think it's Slimer holding a bucket, and then so his mouth is open, so there's popcorn in the bucket and in his mouth, and you can dig it.
And it's clean.
I still don't understand the obsession with Slimer. I like it, but it's like we talked about it in one of the episodes. Yeah. Like here he is again. Slimer's back. And, and of course he's in this other movie too. And it's like, wow, man, this guy. And they have some plushies, which is good. So those are out, or those are coming out, or
popcorn plushies.
Popcorn plushies. Just like you eat into the cotton, and then you get to the popcorn. It's a really strange sensation.
Yeah, a little. Like the mini Stay Puffs now that are the rage with the new franchise. Yeah, so there'll be those.
Let's see. Cinemark will have cups and tins, but the Slimer. I already said that. Never mind. Let's see. Regal has a Ghost Trap popcorn bucket. That sounds cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, I like that idea. AMC's Ghost Trap with a plastic container coming out of it like a red ray of some kind of I don't know. What is it?
Whatever it is that comes out of a ghost trap.
Like the rays, right? The rays are coming out.
So not like right now, Regal's Ghost Trap holds as much as you could put in a Ghost Trap. But AMC, because the rays come up and they're plastic, holds a lot more popcorn. More popcorn, more winning.
Our level of
I told you. I love popcorn and I love buckets. How can I not respond that way?
By the way, I owe you a thank you.
You're
just
welcome.
A straight up thank you. Because Justin is the man who introduced. This is why Justin makes me feel good. Justin introduced me to
magic.
That too, but to M&Ms in popcorn. I had never seen that before.
Peanut.
Peanut. He does peanut M&Ms. We don't always do that because my daughter's allergic to peanuts. But we do like the regular M&Ms, and sometimes I actually do Junior Mints. Don't judge me.
What?
I'm open.
I didn't know anyone still ate Junior Mints.
Well, I liked them when I was younger.
Wait a minute. Stop, hold everything. The mix of popcorn and Junior Mints, one thing, but Junior Mints just alone are great. What?
Yes.
No.
I mean, they are the greatest candy
Not
on the
a Junior
planet.
Mint
They're very refreshing.
Wait a second. Do you not eat Andy's mints as well?
Nope.
Okay, what are
you
you
don't
even
eat
talking?
Frango
When
mints?
you leave a restaurant and they hand you an Andy's mints, and by the way, that's high class right there. You get it at like Denny's or whatever it is. That's some good stuff.
I mean, I guess I have because they give it to you and it's there, but I never think, oh man, I could go for an Andy's Mint right now.
A York peppermint patty? Or you're out?
No.
What?
No, wouldn't even bother. No.
I
like their commercials.
You love buckets, and my respect went up, but it just went back down.
what started out as a great compliment has now tanked into.
I have your birthday gift. It's a bucket of Junior Mints. But I'm not going to give it to you.
Here's the thing. If it was in a bucket, I might really enjoy it.
Okay.
Well, all I want to say is thank you for that because it is delicious to have chocolate and the salt with the popcorn. It's really addictive.
Salty
I love
and
it. So I
sweet.
can see why you like buckets.
Put that in your popcorn bucket. Put that in your popcorn bucket.
Let's see. So the Ghost Trap. Let's see what else. AMC also has a mini puffed sipper cup, which I think sounds fun.
Yeah, like the Indiana Jones one with the hat. This will have a little mini Stay Puft on it.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So there you go with that. Let's see. Sony has released 2 vignettes at the Ghostbusters YouTube page. A video introducing the new ghosts that will debut in Frozen Empire, which we just went over, including the Sewer Dragon. I guess that's one of the names. Let's see. Pukey, the Possessor.
Yeah, those two I don't know from the trailer, so that was interesting to hear them call them out.
And Garaka, which he did mention, and the big baddie who seems to be behind the death. Garaka is the big baddie who seems to be behind.
I haven't
the
given
death
him a
chill.
name till this video, for me at least.
Yeah, I hadn't heard it yet.
I don't remember any of the ghosts ever having names other than Slimer, and I always felt like
What?
Gozer?
What do you mean about the big bad?
Zool?
Well, I guess I didn't think of.
Vigo?
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
Let me clarify.
Okay.
Well, you
Let's
can't
just
put
clarify
Zool on
something.
on the same.
Oh, I see.
I didn't think of them as ghosts. I thought of them as alternate world beings.
Interdimensional. Okay.
I don't know. I guess I think of the ghosts as like the Slimer characters or whatever, but like not. But you're right. They are all ghosts. And
No, the Scolari brothers are the ghosts.
Scolari. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see. Another video shows quick interview clips with the cast, including Carrie Coon and Ernie Hudson talking about their own personal paranormal experiences.
Yeah.
And I love that because that all was it Dan Aykroyd who wrote the book, or was it like a big fan of all this?
Yeah, his whole family.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's really cool that they just keep diving into this, even more and more.
Personal level on every movie.
30 seconds. Anybody have this? A paranormal experience in your life?
For sure.
Really?
Yes.
Explain.
I mean, several different kinds of afterlife type of experiences.
What?
Yeah, and feeling energies, feeling cold, like those kinds of things. Yeah, for sure.
Were you in Canada or something?
Yeah, it's always in Canada
It's
and
interesting
nowhere else. I
how
don't
it
know
always
why.
happens. Yeah, you feel
and they
cold.
just like come right up to your ear and they go.
That is so funny you say in Canada. Niagara on the Lake. It's a super, super, super old town. We were staying at the hotel, which is the oldest hotel up there. And first off, the entire town is supposed to be haunted. Middle of the night, I'm sitting there. I wake up in the middle of the night, no reason at all. Get super cold. Light goes on directly over the bed. I just stare at it. Now I'm even colder because I get chills. I'm like, what was the first thing? And then this. And I just stared there looking at it. Then light goes off. Wow. And then I went, okay. And I went back to sleep.
And I'm going to stay in the hotel, you said to yourself?
Following day, found out that one of the major, and I'm not going to say it because it's the bar that's the most haunted, but they said one of the rooms that is most haunted was right next door.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Now, I'm going to tell... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Could just be an electrical problem. So, I don't know.
I'm going to steal a story. My wife tells a ghost story growing up in a house. I think she was, 5 or 6. They were in this house, and they had a basement kind of area, like a lower whatever. And I don't know what the whole story was with the guy who had lived there before, but I don't know, one night she's walking by this door and she had seen things or whatever, and then eventually she looks at her mom and she goes, Ben lives down there. They had no Ben in their life, so very clearly she had some sort of interaction, and he told her his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Right. What about you, Paul?
My dog saw one.
Yeah?
My old dog, Wheezy, we were in Put in Bay on an island in a hotel. So that maybe that's where this stuff goes down. An old historic hotel. And we weren't leaving her alone for a second. We heard, "Burr," and she then ran up the stairs real fast. We went over and she pooped. So I'm sure she saw a ghost, scared the crap out of her literally, and she took off up the stairs as fast as she could.
Have you been? Oh, sorry. Have you been to the hotel down in San Diego? The what is it?
Coronado.
The Coronado. I mean, there's that whole story about the woman who died there and all of that. But I definitely feel like a coldness and an energy when I go to that hotel, especially certain parts. So yeah, for sure.
There's a cold spot in the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel ballroom. Apparently, it's always cold in this one spot that's a little haunted, where they had the first Oscars ever. So who knows what's going on in there? But
crazy.
And let's get to Ghostbusters: Answer the Call. So 2016, this comes out. Clearly, they often just call it Ghostbusters 2016, which Paul Feig was like hoping, please don't call it that. He didn't want it like marked, time-stamped.
Yeah.
He wanted it to be kind of something forever. But as you mentioned, by the end of the film, they call it Answer the Call, which they probably should have just done from the beginning to just differentiate it from the original. Not helping the, let's call them fanboys, but they are not, online, who were talking about this film before it came out. But this was a big summer movie. July 15th it came out at a budget of $144 million.
Wow.
I'll lead with my problem with the whole movie right away. Is that they spent the money on the parts of Ghostbusters movies we like the least.
Yeah.
We like the jokes and the characters and the fun. But I think they just blew too much on all the effects, which we're okay with. I think guys like us, at least, kids might find eye candy in it. And so it earns $229 million.
Wait, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Do we know anything about what the actors were paid? Because, at this point in the game, actors of note get a decent paycheck. So $140 million.
I think it was inflated.
How much of that went
actresses
to cast? Because they certainly, Chris Hemsworth alone, is big. But obviously, all the ladies are huge, and they're firing on all cylinders.
Right. Chris Hemsworth though might have taken a hit in his pay because he was trying to change how he was being seen. He was trying to show that he could do comedy because Thor hadn't done comedy yet. Melissa McCarthy was the first person to sign on. Excuse me. She was the first one to sign on, so I don't know what the paydays would have been.
I feel like her paycheck has to be big. I mean, she's certainly an actor of note.
I would think Kristen Wiig would have been the highest.
I agree.
Highest paid.
Well, if you watch the Ford Fiesta, also at themovieguys.net, I mean, we were talking about Air Force One recently. Ford got paid $20 million for that movie. I mean, those days are gone. So no one's getting that quite
not without back
big
end
paycheck. Right. These days. So, but I don't know the answer to that. So.
Yeah, I just was curious because we immediately go to the effects, and there's no doubt. And I mean, I think some of the effects in this are just
they're dynamite.
They're beautiful. They're beautifully done. Some of them I question. There was a few green screen moments near the end where I was like, that looks like a pickup shot that they were like, well, we're not at the location. We're going to shoot you on a green screen.
I felt that way a few times, actually. Yeah.
But I mean, I thought the effects looked absolutely dazzling.
Yeah, they were stellar. But that still brought the movie a $7 million loss between, the marketing and everything.
Wait. Is that loss based on theatrical release or overall making?
Correct. The theaters, this is its theatrical run.
So do they consider it a loss? I'm just curious.
Well, I can.
Rule of thumb is if you don't even make your budget back. If you don't make double your budget, then yeah.
But that's but I'm saying over time, right?
Okay.
Like if we're are we just saying, do they say that something is a loss if it doesn't make its money back in its initial release? Because I feel like in the world we live in now, even back to 2016, would that have been the case? Because you still at that point, obviously streaming's starting to get hotter, and then of course you've got DVD and Blu-ray.
Well, there's still investment in all that stuff too.
That's true.
For it to
That's
have to
true.
sell. All I know is it comes out in July 2016. In January 2017, Sony took a $1 billion write-down.
Well,
so there you go.
Yeah.
What is a billion? A write-down? What is
in its worth of its company.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So it's no good.
I want to say this. That makes me sad because I feel like the haters are going to blame all kind of, whatever things. And
it's almost like they won.
That's right.
Which is the worst part.
That part I hate because the one thing I felt watching, I felt a lot of stuff watching this film, was these ladies really weren't given the chance to carry the torch further. And I think the idea, at least at that point with the reboot, was to probably keep it going, especially because if you stayed to watch the tail end, the post-credit scene, which I was like, oh, that's awesome.
I thought the post-credit scene was a great scene.
Yeah. I love that.
Which one? There's like 11 minutes of credits.
It's literally at the end.
So you're talking about when they find Zool.
Yeah, when they find Zool, she's like, what's Zool? Who's Zool? And I was like, what? That's awesome, you know? So, obviously they were setting this up to keep going.
Oh, they were signed on for 2 films, the director and
that's interesting.
The cast.
And
really?
I think
2 forms after this, so a trilogy. Yeah.
And I think, to your point at the top with the issue with the budget, had they done a little more fiscal responsibility with the film and not push the budget so far.
Cut the budget in half at $140 million. You make it a $70 million movie.
Right.
What you're talking about is Afterlife. That's why Afterlife was huge, and that's why we have Frozen Empire.
Yeah. Yeah.
He spent $75 million, I think. He spent a lot less.
Wow.
And it made just about the same, but they made a huge profit.
But I will also say, and I know we haven't gotten Afterlife yet, but I will say 2 very, very different movies. Very different movies. And in terms of like a reboot situation, very different. So, yeah.
No, it's canon. So the Afterlife is after they realized the reboot was just not going to take. Just sadly, it just wasn't going to work. Also, the film wasn't released in China. Some people say because the first 2 were never really popular there. Some people say the ghost thing is not. Like, it goes kind of against their culture to have stories about ghosts.
Oh, that's interesting.
In Japan. In China, sorry. But so it was never released there, and that's, of course, where a lot of these type of big-budget movies can make a ton of money.
Right.
This didn't have a chance.
China's a huge market. That's so interesting. Oh, okay.
I want to share just one initial reaction to the film.
Sure.
I was talking with my wife about it this morning. I laughed out loud really hard several times watching this movie.
Yep.
I can't say that I did that watching the original Ghostbusters. Did I find it funny? Did I find it fun? Absolutely, and lighthearted, and there's fun, silly, goofy moments, and I don't know, maybe some of the Rick Moranis stuff I really laughed at more as a kid, but I don't remember laughing to the point of like just losing it, and these ladies made me lose it.
I'll agree with that. My overall, this was my first time seeing it. Okay, I had not seen it prior to 2 nights ago.
Right? This was my first time seeing it as well.
So it's interesting, knowing all the hate that took place and all of that. I really enjoyed this film, but I am going to say that with a caveat. I felt like I was watching 2 different movies. And the first half of the movie is, I bet it was a ton of fun on set. You can see everyone is improvising. From that first opening scene where he is making up things about, and this is where, P.T. Barnum enslaved elephants and all this stuff. And it's like, that was its biggest downfall for me, because you can see these ladies improvising absolutely brilliant stuff, but it's constantly taking me out of the reality that is there. It goes back Ghostbusters 2 when they're digging up out on the street, and they're now we're doing these characters, and hey, sit down in the what you didn't tell him you were digging, you didn't tell him whatever all that was. I didn't like all of that so much. I want to deal with my regular characters, okay, not my characters being characters. And this, I felt like they were constantly improvising, brilliant improvisation, that if I was watching this on stage, I would be dying.
Yeah.
Okay? But I feel like the film suffered from that up front. And then the second half of the film, I really, really enjoyed, because the second half, they got to stick to the script. There was so much less improvising, with the exception of right back down to the very end, not the very, very end, but after they defeat, Rowan. And then they start improvising again. I was like, you just pulled me back into the bits.
Well,
over here,
I'll say this about the improvising. I do think it's a style that doesn't always work.
Right.
I think it's fun, and I agree. Like in a live setting, I think maybe because an audience is with you, and there's this give and take, and suddenly you're just drawn into it. Sometimes I think in a film setting, And maybe it works in sitcom, but I just don't know if it works in that film set. Now again, they're brilliant at it, and
Absolutely.
it's funny.
Absolutely.
And I understand what you're saying. It's funny in the sense of like if I siphon this moment out, and I look at just this moment, that's funny.
Absolutely.
Right? But if I put it in the context of the reality of the given circumstances of the film, I'm suddenly pulled out just a little bit. And I think part of it was just that the ad-libbing, the pushing of that style of comedy just went maybe a little too far.
I agree.
Now, I will say this. Conversely, I absolutely, as an actor, 100% respect the fact that they went there and they did it, and they pushed it. Because part of what I think they were trying to do, and rightfully so, was we're going to own this, and this is going to be our version. Yeah. And it's not like, oh, let's always pay a homage to what they did or what this was. Screw that. Right. Yeah, this is yours, and you do it. And they did it, and that part I respect.
Yeah, the second half of this film I enjoyed so much more, especially with the, when they're going into battle and they're doing all this stuff. I thought it was great, I thought it was so cool with the chipper, the ghost chipper, and the little gun. And it's just, Kate McKinnon licking it. I was like, that's a brilliant moment that is 100% called for, and it's within the context of this. And I'm sure you improvised it, but your character would do that, and it didn't pull me out of the film.
Yeah.
Her pulling him out and going, yeah! And then, shoot. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah.
An example of improvising that's super funny but pulled me out was, Kristen Wiig carrying her box and saying, I'm just moving offices. I found 2 cats in the wall. It was weird. And it's like, that's... You're being funny, and that's a funny line. Yeah. And I guarantee everybody laughs at that. But you're pulling me out of the movie by doing that because now I'm watching a sketch.
Well, and it also begs the question of like, I'm sure you've been on set and had this happen, right? Where it's like, there's something that you're doing in a scene or whatever, and it's funny, right?
Yes.
It's funny on set.
Yes.
But then you get back to the editing room and you're like, Is this funny?
Yeah.
Is it funny because we were all on set, we understood the context, and she was rocking it out or he was doing whatever? Like, is it funny? I don't know. And because I feel like that moment in particular was one of those, like, you're in the editing room, you're like, oh yeah, everybody died when she did that bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you could have literally just showed her walking down the hall for 4 seconds. We didn't need the other shot that's a turnaround that is that moment when she says the cat moment, right? You don't even need that shot. Like, get out of there and keep it moving.
Yeah.
I laughed my ass off at Ghostbusters 1984. I didn't laugh my ass off at Ghostbusters 2. So this was a welcome return to laughing my ass off. But one of the problem I have with it, I actually have a different reaction than you, Justin, because I thought the first half of the movie was all the signposts that they hit in a Ghostbusters movie if you're going to reboot it.
I agree.
They get their 4th member, they get kicked out of the school, they get the car, they get the headquarters, they go in their first job. Like all the things So you're kind of wrapped, so my first time seeing it, I'm kind of wrapped up in all that. I'm missing the jokes. But there are a ton of jokes in this movie. And the second time through, I got to enjoy them more. This was my 4th viewing for this show.
Oh, wow.
So by now, I'm just rolling with the jokes. And this is the first time I watched the extended cut, which you shouldn't watch because it's just full of all the jokes they cut that you will not
I do remember as I pulled it up on Amazon, I was like, oh, there's an extended cut, and I went, no, I gotta watch it. Like,
they just
Feig wanted
Who was it? Somebody recently came out and talked about like extended cuts, or I was watching something online. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, the point of the story was that they were talking about director's cuts and extended cuts and stuff like that, and I think it was a producer, and he was basically saying, look, there's a reason why we just had the cut that got released.
Yeah.
The director's cut, the extended cut, that never... I mean, Blade Runner to me is a great example. There are so many cuts. I don't even know what cut.
16 or
there's
something.
so many cuts of that film. And you're just like, oh my God. I don't know if you ever saw the Richard Donner Superman 2 cut that was released, and there's a whole story behind that that he finally got to come in and basically finish his movie that he was going to do, and the way the story was going to unfold. They gave him some money, but they didn't give quite enough money, and so at a certain point he's like, they don't really care about this. I'm not really going to care about this. And then that's basically what we got. And I remember I was so excited about seeing that. I'm like, oh my God, this cut, and I'm so excited, and I'm watching it going, I think I'm okay
you
with
said
the original.
I thought I was going to finish your producer's statement, which he said, there's a reason we gave you the cut we gave. I thought that was going to say, there's a reason we cut those scenes. That's what I usually say. Deleted scenes. Let's watch them. Yeah, I get it.
I mean, ultimately that is the truth, right? I mean, there's a reason why those scenes end up on the cutting room floor. Now sometimes it may be something as simple as, guys, we're running long, and the movie behind, we need to get, whatever, 8 showings a day or whatever the standards are, right? Sometimes that just is the thing. But I think I think those kinds of things from a filmmaking point of view are part of what push good filmmaking. It's the challenge of
forces you to be your best.
Yes, yeah, it's the late at night and everybody's tired and we got to get this shot and the sun's coming up and whatever, just it's that kind of stuff that makes the brilliance. I'm not saying you can't have pleasant circumstances as well and make something great, but I do think that it's that challenge sometimes that pushes you in your creative efforts.
Yeah.
I think Susan, my fiance, said it well. If I'm quoting her correctly, she said there's a lot of diversion dialogue. I think that's the word. So it takes you, and I didn't mind it in the Kristen Wiig scene, but there was a scene where where Bill Murray goes flying out the window, his character, and then they have to talk to the cops, and it's because of ghosts. The cops what, like a Patrick Swayze ghost? They go into a whole bit about Point Break, Roadhouse, and on
yes.
All super funny, but once again pulling me out of the stakes of the movie.
I think even more so there because there's another character they have to contend with.
Yeah,
Kristen Wiig leaving, say as many jokes as you want, I think, but then when there's a cop there, when we got plot to do, that's where I thought we had what I termed diversion dialogue.
Well, and it is always interesting when you have a day player that gets in on the bit.
Yeah.
I the last television episode I did was for Parks and Rec, and I did a scene with Chris Pratt, and the directors who were directing that episode could tell that I'd had improv experience and we're doing this thing, and I'll never forget shooting that day and being that was one of the more fun days I've ever had, shooting a big project I felt like we were funny and was da-da-da. And then of course I see the cut and they cut every bit of funny out of me. There was no funny with me, and I was as an editor, I was yep, I get it.
Yeah.
Yep, I get it. He's funny. He's the star. I'm
the
guy
star.
just to live it. And anything funny that I did was gone.
Yeah, I get it.
Well, here's what could have been. There was an early script called Ghostbusters III Hellbent, written by Aykroyd in 1999. It had Venkman leaving the Ghostbusters to spend time with Dana. The remaining Ghostbusters, including a new young member, fought souls evicted from a hellish version of Manhattan known as Manhelton. It was revised to Ghostbusters in Hell. They were going to bring in Ben Stiller to replace Venkman. And the Ghostbusters found a portal to an alternate dimension where all the worst things about modern urban life are magnified. Sounds a lot like The Slime to me, actually, which took all the negative energy in New York.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sounds like it was going to do the same thing. Anyway, eventually it got canned. And another story had Venkman transformed into a ghost. That got canned. But it was in 2009 after the video game did so well, which we talked about before. Sold 1 million units. Ramis announced a new script from Lee Eisenberg and Gene Stupnitsky, who wrote Year One for him. Aykroyd loved it. Murray said it was poor. So it's just you couldn't get Murray on board ever. By July 2010, the project was dead because Aykroyd admitted he didn't want to recast Venkman.
It's interesting. You said 1 million. I was doing research on the video game because of all of this, and Aykroyd essentially said that was Ghostbusters 3.
Yeah,
was that. Ended up, it's interesting you said 1 million. It ended up selling over 3 million. I mean, they did it cross-platform on top of that. Not to mention the people that they brought back all the original people to play voices, but also got William Atherton, got Annie Potts, got Max von Sydow came and did voiceover for it as well. And then, of course, it features, the soundtrack, and it features the props and the locations that we all know and love.
I've never played it. I would love to play this game. I bet it's amazing.
The downside is that you can't really think about it without thinking this is the last time we see or the last time we hear the real Egon. It's Ramis's last performance as Egon, which is kind of bittersweet, but very cool nonetheless that they were able to do all that stuff. Yeah.
So Paul Feig comes aboard in 2014 with Katie Dippold to remake the whole thing. So that's the way they went. 3's not going to happen. Let's remake the whole shebang.
Right.
And Feig is reported as what I talked about in Ghostbusters 2. He didn't want them to lose their success and have to fight back again for it. So
I actually really I do like the idea.
Let's just start with Ghostbusters from scratch again.
Yeah.
Amy Pascal got on board supporting the female casting.
In terms of story, since we're in that, I will say at the very beginning of the movie, I understood, okay, this is, we're setting things up, like you said, sort of similar to what we may have had in the original Ghostbusters. But there was also immediately to me sort of a different tone, a different sensibility with it, and I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. And as it continued to progress, I thought, oh, there's some new stuff in here. This is good. I like it. This is new stuff. And then there was a moment, to your point, where it was like, oh, okay, so she's gonna lose her job, and then they're gonna get out of the okay, and then they're gonna get the okay, got it. Yeah. And I was like, I was really hoping for more new story, more. I don't feel like they needed to lean so much into the actual beats of Ghostbusters. But I will say this. In terms of franchises, I was thinking about it this morning. It reminds me of Spider-Man, right? Yeah, how many times have we seen the origin of Spider-Man?
Too many.
Too many.
And the internet didn't go nuts for some reason.
Right, right. And
Batman, how many times have we watched Batman's parents die?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, seriously. Yeah, it's like so many origin stories and going back to that. And so again, this is an origin story. Now, this is also a reboot. So I support the idea that they needed an origin story. I will say, I do wish they would have just tied it into the other and somehow at least been like, wait a second, you could set it years later and they were like, wait, there were these guys who did this in New York, but then the ghosts stopped coming or so. I mean, you could have had just something like that and one picture and boom, done. I would have loved that. You know?
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the first trailer for this, I didn't go back and rewatch the trailers. In the first trailer for this, didn't they link it to the original film? Wasn't there some? I thought there was.
I
something
think you're
like
right.
30 years ago, there were. I thought they did. Should we pause and watch?
Wait a second. Was it? No, I think that was. I think you're thinking of Afterlife. I think it was Afterlife.
Okay. All right.
I think that was a teaser into Afterlife.
Gotcha.
That's certainly for sure.
Yeah.
Then I will say this. What occurred to me, because I agree, we hit all these beats. I wish they would have, one, tied it into the first, and two, at the credits at the very beginning, there's a new credit which I hadn't seen before, which is the Ghost Corps. And that immediately made me go, Ghost Corps. Paul's great idea of like, have this be in Boston, have this be in LA, have this be in Peru.
Why should this one be in Boston?
Right.
They shot in Boston.
Which is hilarious, actually, because the opening sequence, and they're like, I see the house. I'm like, oh, this is in Boston. I didn't realize that. And then it says New York City. I went, well, no, it's not.
Now, I didn't catch the Boston, but now that you say it, since we've been there so many times, they
added New York buildings behind the Aldridge Manor at the top.
Yes, but it's the house in Boston from Boston.
And they did
University.
shoot in Tribeca and Columbia University a little bit, but mainly in Boston, and they should have said it there. They should say, hey, you can have a franchise in every city.
Right, exactly. Right. That would, once again, make it the Ghost Corps.
Right.
This is Ghost Corps Boston. Then we have Ghost Corps, that's tough to say 10 times fast. Ghost Corps Peru, Ghost Corps Tokyo, whatever.
Well, Ghost Corps is the production company Aykroyd and Reitman started to launch this huge franchise that stopped with the 2016.
Yeah, exactly.
But now it's reinvigorated again.
Interesting. Fast, yeah.
And they wanted to reboot animated projects that you could never get off the ground either. So this stumbled a lot of stuff, unfortunately, and unfairly.
Did either of you watch any behind the scenes of this movie?
No.
I came across one on YouTube that was like the most like interesting sort of voyeuristic behind the scenes I've ever seen of a movie, because I mean, no, they're not like peeing or anything, but that's too much.
God, why would you even go there? That's not what I was thinking.
I don't know. Anyway, but what was interesting about it was there's no voiceover, there's no like credits, there's no. It's just
footage.
It's just footage.
It's not sanctioned. Yeah, it's some Bostonian with a camera.
Maybe. Yeah. No, but I mean, it was obviously produced because they're on set, and I mean, there's definitely, you know what I mean. But there's no narration or you're just like watching it. And to your point, they had an awesome time on set.
Yeah.
And you can see that they had an awesome time on set. Or your point.
Yeah.
And the other thing that struck me was, so this director shows up to set every day in a suit.
Paul Feig,
that's his thing.
That's his jam.
I loved that.
Yeah.
I loved that. I was like, that is so cool.
Not just a suit. He always looks like $1 million. Like, a guy always looks great.
I was like, that's commanding in an awesome way.
Yeah.
Like you're not trying to be a jerk. You're just like,
oh no,
yeah, no, I want to.
That's him. That's his style.
Yeah. I love that. So, but it was very clear that they were having a great time. Oh, the other thing I enjoyed about this film, although maybe they did it a little too much. We got to see a lot of proton pack action
Yes.
Which was so fun because some of the other ones is like, okay, here's one scene with the proton packs. There we go. All right, that's it. That's your scene.
No.
So I loved all of that, and I also love that there's a little bit of a like almost superhero nod element of like she's creating all these like amazing. Here, throw this. Like, the thing blows up, and then they get ready. Like, I mean, it's like right out of Batman, right? They're like getting all like ready. I loved all of that. It was great.
There's so much about this film that I really enjoyed. One of which is I loved all the cameos in it, right down to the Slimer cameo. And you had already told me that Ernie Hudson was going to... That was the only cameo I knew going into this, and I had totally forgotten. And then, of course, they're like, the hearse pulls up, and then he gets out of the car. I'm like, brilliant!
Right.
Brilliant! Right. There is so much. And Dan Aykroyd just with a little nod of like, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, and I ain't afraid of no ghost. And then he drives away. I was like, I thought all the cameos were fantastic.
Now Murray's clearly all in with Afterlife, and he's going to be in Frozen Empire, but I think he's quoted as having done this one as a favor to McCarthy and McKinnon, who he knew. So he did St. Vincent with McCarthy, probably that got him tight with her, and so he jumped aboard, which was shocking. Even Robin Shelby, who we talked about doing suit work in Ghostbusters 2, they brought back to do the voice of Lady Slimer.
Yes,
when Lady Slimer shows up.
By the way, in this movie we got ghost rats, so we do have animals with ghosts.
That's right.
And Slimer drives a car, so Slimer must have been a person at some point. And we even got, as you saw, Lady Slimer or Mrs. Slimer or whatever you want to call her, with the hair and the bow and everything. And I was like, okay, so I think Slimer was a person. We just don't know what Slimer was.
There's a rumor
like.
Slimer was a gangster. But we don't know. But we don't know.
A gangster that primarily just ate.
I want to say we glossed over it a little bit, or we touched on it a little bit, and I want to go back to it just a bit. Chris Hemsworth, I think, was hilarious.
Yep.
And I'm glad that he was able to show those chops in terms of the comedy chops and stuff like that. And Melissa McCarthy and both they were so funny with like their reactions with. I mean, it was so great, and he was hilarious.
Yes.
I mean, I loved it. I think the only slight like, you're like, is that believable? And it's like, it's a movie. Suspend your disbelief. But, that bad of an employee.
Well, it's funny because
you're building a business. Can you answer the phone? Can you answer the phone?
It's so funny because you go back to, the improvising that'll take you out. Improvising that I thought was hilarious, and I'm sure they just came up with on the spot or the day or two before, was the headshots. Do I look more like a doctor in this picture? Brilliant, hilarious, funny. Every time they say cover your ears, and he kept covering his eyes. Like, I was like, you're going a bit too far. Once again, on stage though, in a sketch, that is hilarious.
Yeah.
If you were improvising that, I love it. I love it. I love it.
I will say
a little too far.
I think the first time it was funny. By the time he's doing it later, it was like, But I love the fact that he was a klutz, and he, there was that look. I'm talking like you ladies. Yeah,
there was plenty of stuff that absolutely brilliant.
Oh my God, the first time when she's like, whatever the name of that she was trying to push, the meta whatever, and he's like the metamucil.
Metamucilus.
That was great. I don't know if somebody wrote that or if that was an improv, but God, that was great. That was awesome.
No, he's fantastic.
Well, speaking of improvising, Paul Feig called Zach Woods, who opens the movie as the guide in the Aldridge Manor, the best improviser he's ever seen. He was cast before the leads.
Was he really?
So Feig just got to get this guy.
But once again, and I love him. Zach is fantastic in everything that he's in. He's absolutely brilliant. But I think it sets a different tone right off the bat. With the things that he's saying are just like, am I supposed to be, oh, that's funny, and then I just go, okay, you're a con man? Why would you say that? I don't. You're taking me out of the film already. You're taking. Really? Yeah, it really did bother me right off.
But there isn't even a film yet.
It's because it's setting up of just like, all right, this isn't. I guess I just thought, okay, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. Is this going to be just goofy yucks the entire time, or is there a genuine story here that they're going to tell? And him immediately doing this, and the people not even responding. All of his stuff, once again, if it was improvised on set, in fact, I'm sure it was improvised on set. That's the brilliance of him. I think would have been hilarious. But right off the bat, I wanted more seriousness in the movie. However, when they did cut to finally him screaming and the music coming in, I was like, I'm back in because this is a really great opening.
This is a roller coaster for you.
It was. Wow. This whole film.
The ghost. The first ghost that they see at what's the place they go to?
Aldridge Mansion.
Yeah, that first ghost, that was great. And then when it popped You know, from the beautiful to like the scary. I did jump. That fully made me jump. Yeah.
Some of the ghosts reached out beyond the black bars of letterboxing, which was not only at home viewing, but in the theater, the movie was letterboxed. So sometimes ghosts went beyond.
Did they really?
Yeah. So
I love that.
That is very cool.
I first noticed that at home viewing. Yeah.
I didn't catch that at all.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw it in. I don't know if that was in our version because I watched it on Amazon Prime too.
And me too. Yeah.
Huh. But anyway, I'm jumping from the cameos, which we should continue talking about because there are a lot. Milana Vaintrub, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing her name, the AT&T girl, is the woman attacked by the ghost rats.
Really?
She worked in a Paul Feig show. I can't remember the name of it.
They worked together. They had a space show that was on like YouTube or online or something like that, right?
Space something or something space.
Yes,
that's the
probably.
Show. It's not Office Space though.
No.
And here's my favorite bit of trivia. So Steve Higgins of SNL and The Tonight Show plays the dean of the institute where the girls get fired, right? And he's a big dummy. But his son John plays the guy who shouts "Baba Booey" at the end when the mayor's trying to give a speech about this. You believe this was all ghosts? I was unaware that John Higgins, the guy who says "Baba Booey," is from Please Don't Destroy, currently on SNL, and that is Steve Higgins' son.
So
there's a whole big thing going on there I wasn't aware of.
I'm a big fan of family, and I know people hate nepotism, but if it was like your dad's hardware store down the street, nobody would care.
Yeah,
people get upset because it's Hollywood. I don't
Please
care.
Don't Destroy is one of the highlights of SNL the last couple of years. I mean, they're super funny.
I also think that when you have a family that is in entertainment, that is doing that stuff, some of that stuff does get passed down.
Yeah.
And, I mean, not just like in genes, but like you're growing up around it. You're like, oh, my dad does this, or my mom does, whatever. You're like, yeah.
Sometimes it's great, and I don't mind it at all. And other times, was it Pauly Shore? You go, okay, enough.
Okay.
Richard Simmons doesn't even want you to make this movie. Stop pushing this movie.
Point Justin.
Could have been's in the cast. Emma Stone.
I read that.
Yeah.
Wildly different.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, I mean, look there's wild difference amongst the characters. In fact, I think having Holtzman there for me throughout my journey of going, well, this is the same story, so what's new? Her throughout.
Yeah.
Holtzman, what an original character.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm so glad whoever Emma Stone was going to play, they eventually came around to Kate McKinnon for Holtzman.
I like that they kind of went with this sort of, it's kind of like Egon, but crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Like out of
Egon
this,
to the power of Egon.
Yeah, like not just into it, but like really loves it.
Yeah.
And I sort of wonder how much of that was her.
Yeah.
Because she just committed to that so much. And I one of the things I enjoyed about the film was from all the characters was their bedazzled look of everything when they saw ghosts.
Yeah.
That like it's real and it's true and and they were just so excited about it. And I loved the story, like Kristen Wiig, is that?
Yeah.
I loved her storyline about the her childhood and that nobody believed her and she had to do all these years. I love those kind of moments for me, grounded in truth.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of wish they would have had a little bit of a payoff for that storyline that maybe she saw her at the end or wave goodbye. I don't know. That just would have been some moment of paying that off a little bit. I don't know, but I love that story. I thought that grounded in a nice piece of truth.
I agree.
Yeah.
That was a nice
Cecily Strong, who plays the mayor's assistant, was almost in a lead role. Yeah. Eliza Dushku, Alyssa Milano, who appeared in the game as a voice, was considered. Jennifer Lawrence, Anne Hathaway, Rebel Wilson. That seems like a bullseye.
Yeah,
she would probably have been great in this.
Yeah. I mean, I think the majority of that list to me is just too serious. I don't know if they would have stayed. Now they could have been the straight person to the comedy, which I do think this. To your point, I think this film suffered a little bit from not really having
Kristen
much
Wiig
of it.
Is not the straight person. I mean, to me, she is.
I mean, I think she's playing that role in terms of your comedy archetypes for sure. But she's not there to help you land a joke. She's going to land hers too.
Yeah.
And I think that's different than I'm gonna help set this up and then I'm gonna punch it.
Yeah.
And I think the original Ghostbusters and even Ghostbusters 2. did do well, the first one, of course, the best, but did do a good job of sort of letting everybody have their moments without stepping on moments. And I think that's where some of the improv-y kind of like, let's explore this moment that ends up in the film starts to feel like I don't know who's landing this joke. We're not we both are landing the plane together, and let's you know what, let's both put our hands on the wheel. Let's just do that.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that. There were several moments of hat on a hat on a hat. The first time Melissa McCarthy is confronted by Kristen Wiig. There's that whole scene has a ton of hat on a hat on a hat.
Oh my
joke.
God!
And
it just keeps going.
It does keep going. So it's just like, for me, it's like, once again, I did enjoy this movie. The second half I enjoyed so much more. The answer would have been for me would have been, hey, Kevin, I know you have these brilliant improvisers, and they are absolutely brilliant. And these are, I think they ended up going with the best casting they could have, even with that list that you put, that you gave us. This was the best answer. First best Destiny. But they needed to be reined back in of like, we're not going to go that crazy here. We're not going to go that crazy. Let's try this scene with just the dialogue that's in the script.
I'm sorry, I just blanked on her name. The African-American woman.
Leslie Jones.
Leslie Jones. She did stuff in this movie that she was the one who made me laugh to like losing it, like almost crying. I just really enjoyed her performance. She was just so fun.
Yeah, she is super funny.
She is.
Yeah.
Watch any of her. She did the Game of Thrones videos where she watched Game of Thrones, had reaction videos. They were just hilarious.
Yeah. Like I said, and it goes back to what I said in the last version, in the last countdown. I look at those four ladies and I'm in. I'm like, these are four super, super talented, funny people.
Yep.
But even they needed to be reined in for the purpose of, this is a movie and this isn't an improvised scene on stage.
Yep.
I got an MVP that we haven't mentioned yet, and that's Andy Garcia. I think when she runs in, she says, "The city's going. We got to do something. Do you don't want to be the mayor in Jaws?" And he goes, "Never compare me to the Jaws mayor." Never. Like his indignance and his truthful anger,
100%
hilarious. I've made that into a meme. I shared it. I think it's the funniest line in the movie.
I agree, and he's great in general. And
never compare me to the Jaws mayor.
When we got to the mayor moment, I went, "Oh my God, they're really doubling down on all the beats from the original movie."
Yeah.
But then they kind of had this different take on it, where they're like, "You're doing a great job, and we totally believe you. Stop."
Yeah.
Stop. We got it. We're gonna take this back, and we're gonna make you look like idiots because we have to.
I did like that. We can't let people know that ghosts are real.
Yeah.
So no, we got to say that you're fake. And now you've got a whole bunch of people that are just like, no, the whole thing's fake.
Yep.
Yeah. I enjoyed how they doubled down on that more so than in the original story.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
So let's talk about the controversy. The trailer comes out May 2016. I don't know what we call them, but there are people online who made it the most disliked on YouTube. 280,000 likes to 1 million dislikes on YouTube, and there seemed to be a coordinated effort to lower the IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes ratings for audiences. People just piling on to make sure this movie tanks and gets no love. However, it's certified fresh at 74%, so the critics did well by it. But these guys, there was also racism. Leslie Jones tweeted, "Why can't a regular person be a Ghostbuster?" Milo Yiannopoulos, you know that douche?
No.
He got suspended from Twitter for being such a loudmouth about the movie. And eventually Sandra Bullock says the reaction that Ghostbusters received, because she was making Ocean's 8, with an all-female cast. She was let me say something here. Unfair on a level I can't even not be mad about talking about. They literally walked into a firing squad. You've had the most gifted comedian actresses on the planet, and I'm just going to leave it at that. It doesn't take 5 people to make a movie. It takes about 300. So
I find it very disappointing that we are in a space where people are just so, I don't even know what all of this comes from. I don't know if it's just fear or there's so many of these things we've talked about, from Star Wars to Indiana Jones to, of course, now Ghostbusters.
Right.
These things that we grew up with, and we these things mean something to us. Personal experiences. They were a large part of our childhood. I mean, we spent time watching these movies again and again, and people feel this ownership that honestly we shouldn't.
Yeah.
We don't own them, and honestly, these are stories, and they're they're meant to grow. They're meant to be told in a different way. They're meant to move in a different way, to be told by different people, whether it's different genders or different ethnicities or different languages or whatever it is. We should be telling these stories in different ways. That's what keeps the story alive and fresh. If you want to go back and watch the original one, great. Go ahead and do that.
It's still there.
It's still there.
It wasn't removed.
Yeah. Go ahead and enjoy that all you want. I love that movie too, but I'm just going to say on the record, I love this movie as well. And I wish that they would have had the opportunity. That was one thing I walked away feeling was like, I'm sad that they weren't able to have an opportunity to continue this.
Yeah. I agree with everything you just said, but I mostly agree with I would have liked to have seen another story. Once again,
Yeah.
I would have loved if we'd have been with Paul's idea of like, yeah, there were these guys, there were these Ghostbusters, they just kind of disappeared years ago. Now we're in Boston, there's this stuff that's going on. Do you think we could make what they made?
Right.
And even have it be kind of a reimagining, but also recognizing at the same time it's been before, but now we are Ghost Core Boston. And so maybe we get a second one at some point because you have incredible there's so much good here. There's so much good stuff that's in this film. We're throwing it away because of some jackholes online that now in today's society it's okay to be as awful as you want to be if you don't like something.
Yeah.
Like polite society has gone out the window.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's an anonymity for you to be a jerk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Take one of those guys and put them in a room with any one of those ladies and have him say it to their face, all those awful things that they were saying. And you get a human reaction with that, and I bet they don't.
Yeah. I agree.
Still, and I love a lot of movies, do reshoots. The reshoot here was to go in and have a scene you probably noticed where they're going to look online to see the response to one of their first outings being Ghostbusters. And they said, read the quotes, though. People love us. And she reads, I want to get it exactly right. No bitches can hunt no ghosts. Oh, no, keep scrolling down. So they went back and recorded that
was a real
as
one?
a meta comment on their own.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, how bold, how awesome.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because even getting that confirmation, I thought that in the moment. I went, I wonder if this was like what was happening and they just decided to comment.
Correct.
So
The
I'm
reshoot
so
did
excited that they did that.
I wonder if the reshoot also included the very, very finale where they look over the city skyline and they're being thanked.
Yeah.
I wonder if that was a reshoot too. But that was a really sweet moment where they get to the sort of, like, we have our movie and you guys can all, bite it.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, the biggest debuts for Paul Feig and Melissa McCarthy opening weekends. So that $37 million, I think it made in the opening weekend, was big for them. And hey, not for nothing, Kids' Choice Award winner for movie actor and actress. So Hemsworth and McCarthy won there, and McCarthy also won a People's Choice Award. So yeah, it did that.
I mean, again, to Justin's point, I mean, they're all just so fabulous.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I have stuff about music for this film.
Do it.
That's right. Music, the movie and the soundtrack had 4 different versions of Ghostbusters in it. 4 different versions.
True.
Fall Out Boy featuring Missy Elliott. Missing element.
Missing element.
Missing element. It might have been had a missing element because that was very, very poorly received. People did not like that at all. Walk the Moon did a version which was mildly well received. Pentatonics had a version, and there's actually a quote connected to this. The president of the Pentatonics fan club said, "Pentatonics does more than Christmas music." And then there's the Ray Parker version because that's all anyone wants to hear anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah. I mean, I think it was fun. I will say, because we had talked about Ghostbusters 2 last time, the general score on this, more on hit the nail on the head. I think a lot more in terms of emotional tone and moments and all that stuff. I think they did a great job with that. Also, in terms of behind the scenes stuff that I only saw a little bit, but lots of on set practical special effects going on.
Yeah.
To try to get the reactions and the moments and people flying back, and I mean, like, not see. I mean, of course they have to CG stuff in later on, but like they did a lot of like even like lighting stuff, and I mean it looked great even on set before they added all the stuff, and I was like, great. This is pretty cool. So I think that's part of why their special effects looked so good in this film.
Wow. Yeah. Where would you place it? of the movies of the Ghostbusters we've seen so far.
You mean in terms of like ordering the movies?
Yeah.
Probably number 2. Again, I know you guys love Ghostbusters 2 more than I did, so I think I got to stick by that and say this is probably number 2 after the original.
The original, there's no comparison to the original. The original is what it is. But I gotta tell you, it's a real close race between this and the second one for me. Yeah. And I enjoyed the second one. So
I agree with you.
That's saying a lot.
Of these 3 movies, Ghostbusters is number 1.
Yeah.
And this is in 2016, and Ghostbusters 2 were like number 49 and 50. So that's how far ahead. And they're good, but that's how far
on
the
a 10,000 scale. Maybe I would rank them higher than that. But they're real close together. So. Of that, would you?
I'm just going to say I agree with Paul.
Okay.
I think this is out of these three, this is number 2 for me. I think this is better than Ghostbusters 2.
So if someone said, "Hey, I'm going to watch some Ghostbusters movies. What should I watch?" and you would say, "See the first one, and see the remake, and don't bother seeing Ghostbusters 2."
Well, there's so few of them. I would say watch them all. It's not like you got to catch up with Bond or something.
I do. It's an interesting question because does Ghostbusters 2 have a lot of value in terms of standing up as a film? There's so much in Ghostbusters 2 that for me misses the mark, and is just, it's fine. And again, to your point, Paul, I love Ghostbusters and I love these actors and I love the filmmakers, and I think nobody sets out to make a bad movie. Right. Everybody sets out to make a great movie, and so for that I commend them, and I think it was fine. But I still think this is I enjoyed this movie more.
Gotcha.
Oh, I will say this. One final note is, on the next episode, obviously we're gonna cover Ghostbusters Afterlife. Now, I know that Ghostbusters Afterlife is part of what they're calling canon, right? Like that's continuing our original Ghostbusters storyline. It's just such a different, and I know we're going to get into it, but it's such a different movie, tonality-wise, the overall feeling of the movie.
Scope.
Yeah, the scope of it, all of it. It's just such a different movie, which on one hand I love, and on another hand, when I compare it to this reboot, the reboot was funny. And I don't think Ghostbusters Afterlife is very funny. Now, I'm excited to watch it again because I think I've only seen it once. So I'm looking forward to seeing if there's more jokes than I remember. But I don't remember laughing that much.
I don't recall it making me laugh out loud. It's going back to the question earlier: is the first Ghostbusters as funny as Ghostbusters Answer the Call? I don't know, but once again, for me, all that funny in Ghostbusters Answer the Call also is part of my diminishing returns on it. There was too much funny that was in it that was pulling me out. Something we didn't even talk about. The guy who fired the dean of the college with the bird and everything. Very funny, hilarious. You're in a different movie.
Yes,
we're in a Jerry Lewis comedy now or something. Like all funny. And if I was on stage and I was watching it, oh my God, I'd be peeing my pants.
Yeah,
Sean would want to watch voyeuristically from the side.
I was wondering who's going to make the first callback to that. You or me? Well done.
But once again, I didn't belong in this movie. Made me laugh out loud right up until the very end. Made me laugh, but I was like,
yep. Agreed.
Brilliant. Let's do it again without that.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
So
well,
I don't know.
Thanks for listening to Countdown to 5. Ghostbusters, Answer the Call, we'll call it. And I'm Paul Preston, and be sure to check out everything we're up to at themovieguys.net. You can see Countdown to 5 Ghostbusters, Countdown to 5 Indiana Jones, Countdown to 9 Star Wars. There's a lot of shows where Sean and I are yammering about movies. And now we have Justin.
Yeah, which we're so excited about. And I always talk about Creative Motion Entertainment, multimedia production company. If you have questions, you want to produce something, you've got questions on filmmaking, shoot me an email. I'm old school. Sean@creativemotionentertainment.com. Forget about all the handles.
That's right. Hey, and you know what? If you need to get a hold of these guys and you can't, okay, hit me up. I'll get a hold of them for you.
He has a fax machine. The number is...
Yes, forget all the handles, except at the movie guys.
That's
everywhere
right.
There is social media. All right. Join us on the next Countdown to 5, where we get back to the original canon, as you mentioned, with Ghostbusters Afterlife. Any other thoughts on Ghostbusters Answer the Call?
It's 2040. Our president is a plant.
It smells like burnt bologna and regrets down here.
That's the spirit.